So, we're here to look about availability and why is it more important than ever before. So now, if we're looking at how organisations should remain always on and what's driving that availability, what do you think are the key things that came out from the survey?
Yeah, from the research, we found three key themes, and this was very strong finding across both the survey and the interviews. First, there's something changing around customers and customer expectations. Second, there's sort of an internal employee-oriented kind of driver, and third, there's the need for a resilient supply chain and for continuous sort of availability of data and people to ensure the supply chain continues. So those are kind of three areas we heard that there was drivers.
So if we kind of look to those in the supply chain, that means you want to make sure your supply chain, so your suppliers always need to be on as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's a particularly complex problem because your suppliers need information, data, access to people through your systems, and you need sort of connection with them at the same time. So this is availability not just within your company. This is also making sure that there's availability across companies. So this is I think a particularly challenging technical issue, but one that as supply chains become more complex and more interdependent becomes more and more important. Okay,
and you mentioned employees, and I guess from an employee point of view as well now, and of the age I could say this, that the younger people coming in are kind of like, they're so au fait with technology, they're digital natives, that they kind of expect their own company to be able to be available to them as well, I guess.
We got two big things came across around employees. One is this very much this sense that younger employees who come in and are very much connected through their technology. They expect this to work all the time. So if you have problems with availability, you have big morale problems, and then just the cost of having people not be able to work. So you also have this changing nature of work, the introduction of more and more mobile working. People working in a mobile fashion, they need access all the time. There's very little they can do if the system isn't available.
Well, that goes back to what we said earlier on about international and global reach. So it's mobile, it's international. But I guess it's also driving something else, which is there's a lot of talk about bring your own devices and the availability of data to them. So did that come up at all?
Yeah, the bring your own device trend is all wrapped up with availability, because of course the availability problem becomes more complex as you have more and more devices and more types of devices connected to the system. So the bring your own device shift or pressure adds to the availability challenge that CIOs are feeling. So part of availability is managing availability across many different devices.
So I guess particularly BYOD, you have to think about the security, you have to think about various other aspects that a normal CIO wouldn't think about if you were providing the devices to people.
Yeah, and the demand for this forces companies to rethink their whole approach to availability, a secure availability. So this, rather than just limiting and saying you have to just use this device, it becomes increasingly impossible to do that, which means you have to spend more time and more effort to ensure availability in a secure way across multiple devices, across different geographies.
Yeah, and I guess that's interesting because from a point of view of, you want to make data easily accessible to people, but at the same time you need to control the accessibility of that. So it's a bit like having, do you want one Yao lock on your front door or 27? One Yao lock makes it easier to access, but it's quicker. Whereas if you put lots of Yao locks, it's a long time to get to the data, but it's more secure. So it has to be a balance.
And you have different companies at different sort of places in their thinking on this. I mean, for some companies, we need to make this available because having information accessible from all over through all kinds of devices actually provides competitive advantage.
Yeah.
We can do things that we didn't used to be able to do. So it's a security challenge, but it's also an opportunity for competitive advantage. So there's a positive side if you can work out the problem in a good way.
Yeah. And then if we wrap that back to the third element, which is the customer, right? Then whether you're a B2B or B2C, your customers expect you to be always on.
Yeah, and I think that it's easy to think this is only a problem for the web-based fashion firm, which is true. It is an issue for them, but we found it just as much in many B2B companies who, for example, have salespeople traveling, need access on their iPads or other devices when they're at a customer to show the kind of value that they can provide. Without that, competitors get a jump on them. So these availability issues are equally important for B2B.
Yeah, I think also you make a good point there about different sectors of the market, because I know, again, from a personal experience, if I take a retailer, supermarket, in the past they used to have a storeroom at the back and they used to stock off the storeroom, so if the lorry was a bit late, it didn't matter. stock was still there on the shelves. Nowadays, most superstores are delivery straight in, straight onto the shelves. So if something breaks in the supply chain, if something breaks in the IT, the shelves aren't stocked. And again, going back to the consumer, I don't wait. I walk out the store, go down the road to the next store, and suddenly that's my favourite store. So, you know, it really does go across a whole range of areas and sectors now.
Yeah, and this is true for many, many companies. It's not, it's no longer just the B2C, as you say, it's just as much for B2B, this complex supply chain and needing to have things where they need to be at the right moment. This problem is just ever increasing, and that's a big driver for the availability question.
So it goes back to our conversation earlier on where the CIO needs to think outside of the pure IT box as to the effect this availability has on the whole business.
And this becomes a concern for the head of marketing, for the logistics people, for the all different parts of the firm. This is no longer just a problem of the CIO. It's a problem of the entire management team.
Correct. So it means that this availability needs to be raised up within the board level as being something that is not just a case of, yeah, it's something nice to have. It's no, we need to have it. And then more importantly, take it and use it as a weapon to say, no, we can push this out to give us better customer satisfaction.
Yes, and we want to do that before we have a crisis.
Good point. So Nelson, you have any specific examples you could probably give us from the research you did?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting examples of adding sort of services and offerings that add competitive advantage for companies came talking to an insurance company who talked about how customers expected when they access their bank to also be able to see their insurance information. So for them, there was a challenge of connecting together these two services, but also if the insurance company's systems were down, that meant that customers were unhappy with their bank. So this is a good example of this, the importance of supply chain sort of resilience and the necessity of working together and producing highly available systems.
I noticed in the survey there's some interesting statistics about customers and the perception that the customers' availability requirements had changed over the last 5 years. Perhaps you could explain a little bit about that? That
was one of the most striking responses that we got in the survey. What we found is that 60% of the CIOs that we surveyed said that there had been a significant increase in the expectations for availability amongst their customers. So what you're seeing is across all kinds of industries and all kinds of geographies a clear result that this is a problem that many of the CIOs are facing. Hi, my name is Nelson Phillips. I'm professor at Imperial College London, and I've been commissioned by SunGard to conduct a research project looking into the available enterprise. By available enterprise, we mean an organization whose systems, people, and processes are aligned to ensure 24/7 availability. We found a number of very interesting results. We performed both a survey on 450 CIOs across France, UK, and Scandinavia, as well as a set of in-depth interviews.